Hi, I hope you had a nice week. Good job on homework too. And this week I wanted to talk about wrapping up Unit 1, the reproductive system, and moving on to Unit 2, the endocrine system. So we have a lot to talk about this week, so let's first start with how are we going to wrap up Unit 1. So homework number 3 is out there. Hopefully you're working on that. And I noticed that some people have even finished homework 3 already. Great job keeping up. So make sure that you turn in homework 3 by midnight this Wednesday. And I have the shortcut for week 4. I wouldn't worry about that until after you take the test. And so this week we're taking the reproductive system test. I will put a shortcut in here. Okay, so where if you click on homework and tests on Thursday or Friday, those are the days that the test is open this week, then you'll see, along with homework number 4, which will be open, it'll say test 1 reproductive system, and so you'll have a shortcut here. But let's say, I didn't make the shortcut and you're ready to take the test right away at midnight on Thursday, 12 a.m. on the dot. Then what you could do is you could go into the Mastering Course Home and then go into Assignments, and you would see that the test is there. So you don't have to wait for me to put the shortcut up on this page, although I will do that. But just in case, this is where you can find the test if you didn't see Test 1 Reproductive System there. And then another thing that I'll mention, just because we're right here, is this is where you can see your grade on the test right away. So you can see your grade right away, and that grade is going to sync to the Brightspace grade book, but that sync occurs just periodically. And so if you answer a few questions on the test and your grade is 10, when you look at Brightspace, it will say that your grade is 10 if a sync occurred then. And so that will update periodically. Don't worry about that, but your score will be viewable here right away, and then it will update on Brightspace. Okay, so that's how you can get to the test. As far as what to expect on the test, let's take a look at the syllabus. And I just want to pull this up because I wrote all this out, and so in case you wanted to look at this and take more time looking at it. So as far as the test goes, it tells you, where to get the test. I just showed you that. Click under homework and tests. It's open for a 48-hour period of time. So the test is open all day Thursday, like 24 hours Thursday and 24 hours Friday. I have it opening at 12 a.m. on Thursday and closing at 11:59 p.m. on Friday. Okay, so it will be open that entire time. You have to take the test sometime during that time. So the test is timed. I know I'm saying approximately 70 minutes here. I'm giving 80 minutes on the test because there are 80 items on the test. You can expect that this week. So you can complete the test in less time, but if you take longer, the test automatically closes at the time limit. Okay, so make sure to keep your eye on the time. It should be plenty of time, especially if you've studied and you understand the material. Then you'll be able to answer the questions and move through. Leaving time to look up answers maybe that you don't know. So as far as taking the test, you are allowed to use your notes. You can use the book. Okay, you can use your resources. Okay, so if you filled out that chart that I gave you, like the practice questions or whatever, you can use your resources. The only thing that I ask that you don't use is a human resource, and so I would appreciate it if you take the test on your own. So that's all I'm asking there. So you can use your resources, but you won't have enough time to look up every question. That's for sure. So because it's timed and because you can only open it one time, make sure that you're opening the test at a good time when your kids don't need you and your laptop is fully charged and there's not going to be a power outage. You know, things like that. Think that through, and you know, just make sure that you're opening it with all of your resources ready. You're all set, and then go for it. So as far as the way that it works, basically, let me just show you this. I opened the test. So to show you what it would look like, I opened it a while ago because I'm giving an hour and 20 minutes. And so basically when you open this assignment, it's going to look like what it says up top, how it's due on Friday by 11:59, and it will say 1 hour and 20 minutes here. So it looks like the homework, in other words. And you won't see any of the items. You'll just see that. And right next to the time, there's an arrow. And so if you are ready to take the test, then you actually have to click on like start the timer. Okay? So I did that just so I could show you this, and you can see it looks just like the homework. And there are 80 questions on there. As far as answering the questions, if you clicked on, you know, one question, you didn't know the answer to it, you can close it and go on to item number 2. So it works like the homework in that way, in that I'm not requiring that you answer each question as you go along. So it will show when you go back to this home page which ones are completed and which ones are incomplete. So, you know, say answer a bunch and I still have that number 1 that I didn't answer, I can go back and answer that. Now, you only get one chance at answering a question. So once you select an answer, you can't even open that question again, just so you know. So if I did answer, you know, 2, 3, 4, and so on, if I click on it, nothing happens. It doesn't show me that item again. It's done. Which means that once you finish taking the test, the last question that you answer, the test will automatically close, which is a little sometimes disturbing, because you might have the feeling that you haven't finished everything yet. But all of the tests that I've looked at, you know, when it has closed, you know, like suddenly somebody thought that they had, you know, an answer left, you know, they did answer everything. And of course, if you have any questions, just reach out to me. So that's a little bit different from a paper test. You're not going to be able to go back through and say, yeah, you know, look and make sure I answered everything correctly. You can't even open them again. And so once you answer the last one, the test closes, and you can go into Brightspace and you can click on that Mastering Scores, like I said, and see what your grade is right away. So this is very general information about what to expect on the test. And so I'm just going to look at this. True, false, I do have on the test. Multiple choice, I have on the test. I also have something called multiple select, where there's more than one answer to the question. And so you'll see that, like maybe I'm asking you to select all the correct statements about fill in the blank, or, you know, show me which of these statements are false in a question. I'm not focused on labeling diagrams at all on this test, and so you won't be seeing that, and you won't be seeing matching. They're all like single items. Okay, so you open a question, you answer one thing, and then you're done with that item. So you must complete the test once you open it. So if you open it and you see that it's the hour and 20 minutes and you don't want to take it, you can close it and open it again. But once you start the timer, you can't open the test. You must complete the test at that point. So as I said, once you answer all the questions, the test is going to automatically close. You know, be ready for that. And also the test will close at 11:59 on Friday, and so don't open the test at like 11:30 on Friday night, you know, because it's still open then. The test closes at 11:59, so you won't get the 80 minutes. You'll just get, you know, the 30 minutes, and it will close. So if you have any other questions about what to expect for the test, please let me know, and I will try to, you know, clear that up for you. So what I would recommend is focusing on the reproductive system until you're finished with the test. So we are starting the endocrine system this week, and so I guess, you know, here's kind of, you know, another way to think about what I'm saying. In week 3 last week, we were finishing up the reproductive system. This is the homework that's due this Wednesday night at midnight. You know, keep focusing on this until you can take the test on Thursday or Friday. And then once you take the test on Thursday or Friday, then move on to week 4. So week 4 is open. Week 4 is just the endocrine system. And so you can see I'm talking about completely different system. And I'll take a closer look at that with you in a minute. But I just want to show you, also we have the endocrine system folder, and that's open. So that's where the notes are located, and all the materials are located there in the endocrine system. So I think that I said everything that I wanted to say about finishing up the reproductive system test. So let's talk about the endocrine system, what you can expect once you do move on to the new material. So I pulled up the notes here. And what I have you looking at this week, which you might be looking at a little bit in lab too, is kind of some introductory information. This is one chapter from the book that we're looking at for this unit. And so that's better, you know, than multiple chapters like we did in the last unit. The difficulty level of this chapter is very high, one of the highest difficulty levels, I would say, because it's somewhat abstract, but see what you think. The endocrine system is basically just, you know, study of endocrine glands and the hormones that they secrete. And so the way that I organize the notes is just like the book, in that I talk about the endocrine system in general. And then what I do is I start talking about like each gland one by one, going through like what's the anatomy of the pituitary gland, what hormones come from the pituitary gland. You know, once we're done with the pituitary gland, we move on to the thyroid gland, and then we move on to the adrenal gland. So you get the idea. That's what this unit is going to be like. And it's a quick unit. You know, we're only going to take 2 weeks to finish this up. So in my notes, I'm talking about, you know, how it's a regulatory system, you know, a definition of a hormone. What is a hormone? And basically a hormone is a, you know, chemical substance that's secreted in a very tiny amount into the blood. And it has, you know, it goes away to what you call the target tissue where it has its effect. But there are 2 diffusive mechanisms, which just means that when the hormone is secreted, it's going to have an effect at like a neighboring tissue or even within the gland that secreted the hormone. So that's what autocrine and paracrine are about. So I describe that here. I talk about the chemical nature of hormones. And this is actually an important point, because with hormones, the chemical nature of the hormone is going to determine how it's going to work at the target tissue. And so the basic story here is that protein-based hormones, whether it's a variant of an amino acid, a few amino acids, you know, a full protein, or even a protein with a sugar attached to it, if it's protein-based, it's water-soluble. You know, think of a protein shake. You're going to be able to dissolve that in the water. And so because the blood is like water, these hormones don't have a problem floating around through the blood. But once they come up to the target tissue, taking a look at this picture, you can see that that hormone, it's going to not be able to enter into the cell because of the plasma membrane. Remember how the plasma membrane is a phospholipid bilayer? It's fat, it's lipid. And so anything like a water-based protein hormone, it's never going to be able to get into the cell. And so what it does is it binds to a receptor outside the cell. And then that receptor basically will cause a chain reaction to occur in the cell, which will cause a change in function within the cell. And so I put a little cartoon on the top of this picture. So this diagram is separate from this little comic. And, you know, I'm basically just trying to describe that this hormone, it never enters into the cell. It just binds to the receptor, and by doing that, it changes the work within the cell. And that's how protein-based hormones usually work. That's known as a second messenger system, because it's not actually doing anything itself. It's like knocking on the door of the cell, and the cell changes function. Compared to lipid-based hormones. Lipid-based hormones like steroids or eicosanoids, because they're fat, they need a carrier to float around in the blood. but because they're a fat, they're going to be able to slip right through the plasma membrane. That's not going to be a barrier to them. And so steroids will interact directly with our DNA. We'll bind to a receptor either within the nucleus or in the cytoplasm, and then that hormone receptor complex will integrate into the DNA and cause production of a new protein. After all that general information, that's the gist of the general information, I have you looking at two glands this week, the pituitary gland. So I go through the structure of the anterior and the posterior pituitary, very important information. You could even pull up the class and just listen to this part of it. That will help you understand how this gland works a lot better. And then a chart, you could fill this out, of the hormones that are controlling secretion from the anterior pituitary, the cell type of the anterior pituitary, and then you can fill out the hormone that is being secreted in response. Okay, a little graphic from the book, a list of the hormones that come from the anterior pituitary. This is the short list of the two hormones that come from the posterior pituitary, oxytocin, which we learned already. And then I also have you looking at the thyroid gland this week. And so I go through the anatomy of the thyroid, follicles versus parafollicular cells, how thyroid hormones are produced. And if you pull up my class lecture, you can see me mark this picture up and go through it and talk about it. We're also looking at calcium homeostasis because that has to do with the thyroid and the parathyroid glands that are embedded on the back of the gland. So again, if you kind of go through this picture, which you can pull up my lecture to do, it should make sense. And also that's something that we talk about in AP1, so maybe you recall that. So that's what I have planned after you take the test, that basically, just start looking at the endocrine glands, starting with the pituitary gland and then moving on to the thyroid. And we're going to pick it up with the adrenal gland next week. So that's what to expect with the endocrine system for this week. So I know this is such a long announcement. Sorry about that. One last thing I want to show you. If you go into the endocrine system folder, if you look at this organizational chart of hormones, that is a way that you might want to start keeping track of everything that you're studying. So I don't have, like the sheet of questions like I had in the last unit, but instead you can see with the anterior pituitary, I'm asking you what hormones come from the anterior pituitary, where are those hormones coming from? Like in this case, certain cell types secrete different hormones, the stimulus for release. Why would, this hormone that you filled out, number 1, why would it be released? What's the stimulus? Where's it going? Where's it targeting? And what's the effect of that hormone? And I think if you fill out this chart, so I made this chart for the entire unit, you can see it goes through all the endocrine glands. It's going to help to, just like kind of concisely summarize everything for you and create a nice study tool for yourself, a nice resource for, using on the next test. So sorry about the long announcement. I hope you have a wonderful week and reach out to me with questions. Thank you.